It's day 4, and we are back here for Morning Manna, and I'm so glad that you have joined us. Let's jump right in. We're going to continue this morning looking at the different lives by which God has showed forth his favor. And we're going to do so today by looking at King David. You see, every story about David in the Old Testament, even those recorded of his failures, reveal a very unique presence and favor of God that is displayed in David's life. In particular, in 1 Samuel chapter 16, at a young age, Samuel is anointed as king. The author in the chapter introduces us to David as a young shepherd who God anointed as his choice to serve as king over Israel, even after rejecting Saul. In verse 13 it says, "And the Spirit of the Lord from that day rested on David from that day forward." Saul, however, was very different from David. He was all about himself, his own reputation, his own fame. But David, however, his life was all about living for God and his name and making him famous. In fact, we see the first expression of how David views God and how in exchange God favors David and how that's displayed through the battle against Goliath. David tells Goliath in chapter 17, verse 45, he says, "I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, who you defied." You see, David knew that it was God who was using him and using his instruments to kill Goliath for defying God. Nothing in his own might. Later we see that David just goes further. He goes on to say that the Lord will deliver you into my hands. It says in verse 47 that the Lord saves, not with the sword or spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into my hands. You see, David knew that the Lord was winning all of these battles through him. In essence, the story lets us know that the glory of David is actually not David's at all. It's actually God's. And that's the secret to walking in God's favor. You see, all that he has given, all that he has bestowed, everything that we are is not really because of who we are, but rather because of who he is. Our victory is because we serve the victor. You see, if we embrace this reality of God's goodness and point those victories back to God, I believe that we too will experience that kind of man after God's own heart type of favor. And that favor is available for all who abides in his presence. I want to encourage you to walk in the favor of God that he has for you. Do so in humility and in such a way that points others back to Christ. May you and I serve from the perspective of his kingdom and his will. We'll meet you here again tomorrow. See you then.